Hey, it's me, Lucky Bastard, and today I'm gonna talk about the claw meta. I'm sure most of you have recognized that the claws have become more and more prevalent in our meta landscape, kind of, which just means basically that a lot of people are using them because they're good. So in this video I'm gonna talk about what makes them good in my opinion. And the very first thing I have for you is this example. This person here I'm dueling at the Crab Shack is using those Bloodhound claws with a Bloodflame blade buff on them, which already is one of the big upsides of this weapon, which is their awesome synergy with bleed or frost. And we see this person, they bled me in the very beginning with, well, the Bloodflame blade because I just got hit by the first combo of theirs. Well, and now you see that this person is not actually dueling, even though they're kind of a Crab Shack duelist in quotes. But karma always gets you back, and in this case, karma is being pretty quick, and I just punish them for pretty much everything they're doing over the entire course of this match. So we just saw someone pretty much over-aggressively using their bleed claws, which gave me a lot of options to punish them for their aggression. And now we're gonna see some player who is basically on the opposite side of the spectrum. This player is also using claws, but I can't even tell if it's a bleed build or whatever, because they're just not attacking me, and I'm just roll catching them, backstabbing them, roll catching them. Well, now I prevented them from healing, so they're just panicking, and in the end, yeah, well, this was kind of the low tier claw user, I guess. So now let's get into the reason why the claws are that good in this current state of the game. I would suggest you skip this part of the video if you already know how or why the claws are so good at this point. There's going to be much more action in the later part of this video. Here we have the patch notes for patch 1.10, and in the very first line of the patch notes it says literally, the poise damage of all weapons has been increased. This dramatically changed the way this game plays, and in my opinion in a very positive direction. It's closer to its predecessor Dark Souls 3 now than it ever was. And for me personally, Dark Souls 3 was the best Souls game. I mean, obviously Dark Souls 1 is the greatest game of all times, but well, I guess we could discuss about that for another whole video. Anyway, so now what does this mean for the claws in particular? Here I stole a spreadsheet for you that shows the poise breakpoints for the claws and its specific attacks. So for example, in the very first line you see the one-handed R1, which has 109 poise damage, which means that it would stagger you if you had less than 109 poise. Also worth noting at this point is that 133 is the max poise that you can have with the heaviest armor and the Bulgo Talisman. So if you look at the values, you will recognize that almost every move, especially the two-handed ones, are always going to poise break, no matter how much poise you stack, even with the highest poise armor and the Bulgo Talisman. And all of those attacks, which are the two-handed attacks, they're kind of double attacks, so you always attack twice, and if the first attack always staggers, that means the second one will also always hit. And this obviously has a huge potential for bleed, because the more hits you get in, the more bleed buildup you will inflict on your opponent, and the higher will be the chance of bleeding them, and therefore also bleed stunning them and getting even more free hits in. By the way, claws are not the only weapons that have this kind of thing going for them at this point. Fists are pretty much the same in terms of stagger capacity, and they also have a good moveset and a lot of bleed potential. There's even some fists with natural bleed as well. So in a lot of ways the fists and the claws are very similar. Both of those weapons also count as two-handed if you use like one in both hands, which means that you get basically a power stance setup with two weapons and double attacks, but it doesn't count as dual wielding, it counts as two-handing when you do that, and therefore you have much more hyper armor and poise damage. Okay, so that's it for the explanatory session. Now it's time for the fun part of the video again, where I try those claw and fist weapons myself. Here I'm on the Gank Beach in front of the Radahn boss fight, and I'm using the hook claws with a bleed grease on them. And you'll see that all of my attacks are double hits, and they conveniently combo into each other because my opponent didn't have a lot of poise there. But in the very next invasion, Karma struck back on me, as it should be, to be honest. And I invaded this guy with a full bullet set and enough latency to just ignore the first or maybe even second of my hits, and then just start rolling afterwards. And you'll see this guy is a bit over-leveled. It looks like he could be a few levels above me. This is level 33, by the way. And he's dealing a lot of damage. I'm getting a co-invader there and he's shooting from the sides. This time he shot at me, accidentally I suppose. And now you'll see only half a hit, only one of the spears hit me there. And this guy just kills me with 2 hits. So yeah, as I said, Karma is striking back on me for using those claws. But the very next invasion I invade the same guys, and I'm deciding maybe to not test a completely new category of weapons on them and rather switch to something that I'm familiar with, the Claymore in this case. And also a shield with Carrion Retaliation for parrying some of their magic. So I'm putting some pressure on them with the Great Bow just to tell them you cannot just stand there and spam your crossbow at me. That was already the message sent there with the Great Bow. Switching back to the Claymore. And now I'm kind of trying to position myself in a way that they don't have the gank advantage as much as they do in the open area. So now I'm engaging with this guy. He doesn't take a lot of damage, even from the Lightning Claymore. And they just keep spamming some magic, but as I said, I was already prepared for that. And I'm going to magic parry it and get some of those Carrion Retaliation projectiles. But now you just saw what happens if he hits me with both of his spears. He just almost one-shots me. And I can only get away because my Carrion Retaliation projectiles hit the guy. But well, now he was a little bit too careless and I just take him out, and you see at my rune counter that this guy actually gave me 350k runes, which means he was max level 713. So yes, I killed this max level guy at level 713 with my level 33 character there. And the host, he's probably a little bit worried that he will not really have a chance against me and my teammate after I took out his max level friend. And yeah, I'm giving him a sarcastic applause and bowing to my teammate there, because the teammate obviously helped a lot. So now I'm thinking, after meeting this max level guy, maybe my karma is going to be reset again. And I'm using the spiky casters, land a backstab on this guy. Again, putting some bleed grease on the casters. I did not expect him to just stand still there. And I'm also using the Endure Ash of War, which just gives me basically immunity to every incoming damage for a few seconds. But I guess the karma was not fully reset yet, because the guy just killed the boss at the very moment I killed him, so it was basically kind of a draw. And well, from this point on, I'm just slaughtering people. This was the spiky casters again. Super easy to just roll catch people and just bleed them to death in a few hits. Now I guess my karma is actually back to the positive side again, because I'm meeting some co-opers who are giving me a fair duel. This finger is just waiting for me to duel the host, and this time I'm using the Katar, which is kind of the second version of fist weapon. There's 2 versions. There's the kind of strike style weapons like the casters or star fists and stuff like that, that you kind of swing like you would swing a normal punch. And there are those kind of poke style fist weapons that are more like blades on your fists, like the Katar. And at this point on the Katar I was trying to maybe use a Bloodhound Step and maybe use the Bloodhound Step to chase people more effectively, but in the very next invasion I already changed that to Endure as well. And you see also those triple running attacks that are just super easy to chain into each other and just stagger the guy. So now I have also Endure on the Katar, just to ensure that I will always be able to trade and basically get my build-ups in. And this guy, he has 2 bleed daggers, but the 2 bleed daggers, they count as a power stance setup, so they don't get any bonus for two-handing, because they're not two-handing anything, and I can just easily backstab them. The next invasion I'm using the claws again, and there you will see Endure in action. I'm kinda carelessly just spamming the claws, and in this moment I'm using Endure to just poise through the strike from the Bloodhound Fang, and now again just poising through and basically out-trading him with my claws. This is kind of a really unfair setup, to be honest. It's like basically the only thing you can do is what I did in the very beginning. You can outspace your opponent and try to just not get hit by the claws. At least the claws and the fists don't really have the biggest range. So like this guy with his double katanas, he can try to maybe outspace me and just let me attack him and not reach him while he can reach me in turn. And this guy also has frost on his katanas, so we were kind of trading status effects, but as you see I just bled him way faster than he could freeze me, and I also just dodged his frost there once. So again, now we're back to the frost Katar, and this guy is just going to fight me with a halberd, which is a weapon that I really like. But I'm using Endure, and there I just chain some running attacks into each other, and he basically has no real chance to get away there. It's like, if he attacks me I will just use Endure, and if he runs I will just use my running attacks to catch him. So those are the same guys as before, except they have switched their roles. The one guy who was the Phantom earlier is now the host, and vice versa. But well, it's pretty much the same thing. I'm just almost killing the Phantom there, he heals, and then I just combo some attacks and he's already dead. This is such a mean weapon or build in general, and you can just so easily kill people with it super fast. Personally, I don't really like this playstyle. I rather like to feel accomplished for what I'm doing, and I feel like doing something that is more skillful or requires a bit more skill is more rewarding to me personally. So anyway, this is already the end of the video. A lot of clips with claws and fists there. Basically me shredding most of the time. And yeah, I would not recommend using them to everyone, to be honest, because it's kinda boring. But well, to each their own, as they say, and I can totally understand why they're considered meta at the moment. It's definitely a very, very strong setup, however you look at it. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you did, and consider subscribing to the channel for a +5 luck bonus. Even though you won't need it if you use those claws and fists. Alright, that's it from me. I'm Lucky Bastard. Thanks again for watching, and have a good one. See you next time.